Hi, and welcome to the Bear and Maiden Fair podcast. I'm Liz Loxley.
And I'm Mia Moore.
And we're here to talk about Game of Thrones.
Episode 1 of Season 5.
I believe it's called The War to Come.
The Wars to Come. Multiple wars.
Yes, I forgot to write that down beforehand.
Right, literally everything else about the episode, but not the title.
Yeah. All right, so the episode starts off in a flashback. How long did it take you to figure out who it was?
Okay, well, you were there, so you know. I was like, is this Marcella? Because it's Cersei, but I thought she was I thought it was Marcella in Dorne because the chick she's with has dark hair and I didn't recognize her at all.
Yeah.
And I knew we were going to Dorne this season.
The only reason I knew it was Cersei almost immediately is because it was Cersei's necklace, which also logically could be Marcella. But the way they wanted you to figure it out is the fact that it's the exact same cut dress.
Well, I knew that. That's why I thought it might be Marcella because, yeah, exactly. So I think my guess was still logical because at first I was like, oh, she's got Marjorie hair. And then I was like, Marjorie doesn't wear no King's Landing dresses, so.
Don't wear no King's Landing dresses.
But how interesting is it that they started the season with a flashback when they have been specifically avoiding flashbacks up till now?
Yeah, I think that they're really taking this one for their own. They're like, George R.R. Martin was a thing of our past.
Yeah, but like the flashbacks are something that is present in the books but isn't present in the show so far. Like, and same with all the like prophecies and dreams. It's been like, these are really big things in the books that they haven't included so far.
I think they realized that they had to.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done, number one, but I thought it like really added to the plot and was really cool. So I'm hoping we actually see more of it.
One thing that kind of made me sad, because when they first went into, well, what happens is they go and get a prophecy from a witch. But when they first went into the witch's cabin, or whatever you'd like to call it, she had her head turned to the side. And so she kind of looked like Osha. That's who
I thought it was too, but I'm actually face blind, so I can't tell people apart anyway. So I was just like, oh no, you stupid idiot. Like it's definitely not her. But that's what I thought.
They do have similar face structures, but I've had the biggest crush on Natalia Tina for years. I was like, no, I thought I was so close to getting to see my boo again.
If I remember correctly, Bran and company aren't even in this season. I just read that they weren't even cast in this season.
That sucks for him, though. But I guess he gets to do other jobs now.
Yeah, but it also sucks because...
But Osha's technically not even Bran and company anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
With someone else somewhere else.
Well, she might show up, but I know Bran and Hodor did not get cast.
Hodor.
Which sucks. Which sucks mostly because Bran keeps aging super fast, and are we still supposed to believe he's like 12? Because he's gotten older.
I know, and there's no way you can make that boy get younger because he's getting that like really chiseled face now already.
Yeah,
like an adult.
Like, how old are you? Is it appropriate to think you're attractive? I don't know how I feel about this.
So close to being appropriate. All right. So the next scene flashes back to Cersei going to her father's funeral or wake, or I'm not sure the technical terms of remembering death in Westeros. Yeah,
I kind of forgot that in the last season we didn't see anybody react to Tywin's death.
Yeah, same here. Like whenever because I always look at the credits at the beginning to see who's going to be in the episode. I was like, Charles Dance, what are you doing here? Like,
yeah,
I was like,
you
I
said
just
that
knew he was dead, and that's it.
You said that, and I was like, who's that? So I figured it was somebody dead. But yeah, it was interesting to see him playing a corpse. I mean, I thought immediately of Joffrey from last season having to lay on a table all day after his character died. Like, you don't even think about it, but the actor's being paid for that.
Just getting to take a nap.
Pretty great. But it was a very Cersei scene. She basically is like, Jaime, are you the person who freed Tyrion? And he's like, I don't know, maybe I am. And she's like, you basically killed your father by omission, or by like allowing this to happen. I hope you're happy.
He's like, I don't care. Whatever.
She's like, let me just manipulate you emotionally. BRB, being emotionally abusive.
But I did like the part where she was like recognizing that everyone was in there basically waiting to be vultures upon their family.
Yeah, and she was like, yeah, they can wait because I'm actually mourning, and even though me and my dad have a complicated relationship, like, this is hard on me. Like, I did appreciate seeing a more human side to Cersei, and I like that she, like, anytime she feels an emotion, she takes it out on a family member, and
I'm pretty excited because this is supposed to be like it's supposed to be like a season of Cersei and Arya, which is like the best for me because I love both those characters so much.
I don't know. I have a hard time with Cersei because I just can't handle people that are truly kind of evil. Like it makes me so upset and like I get too emotional about it. But if they keep doing it in this way, then I find it interesting. Like if they keep making her a very complex character, then I'm really looking forward to it.
So next we see just a hole, and then Tyrion pops out of a box. And this is the first introduction to really how Varys and Tyrion are going to work out in their new relationship over the seas, across the narrow sea.
Yeah, they're in Pentos, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I actually didn't realize Varys was going to go with him. I kind of just thought he was like, okay, bye.
I think Varys is like, everything here in King's Landing is fucked. I've got to leave or else I'm going to die here.
Yeah, and now that I think of it, like, it doesn't really make sense for him to be in a box on a boat by himself. I didn't think he'd be in a box the whole time.
Neither did I, but it totally makes sense. And also it'd be kind of fun, like, if you've been, like, the trash boy of the Lannisters for years, just keep one of them in a box for a little while.
Yeah, pretty much. I can see that little vengeance being kind of nice.
And then you get to start seeing, like, Tyrion just emotionally falling apart, being like, everything's useless. I've murdered everything I loved, and that loved me. And now I'm just going to drink myself to vomiting. But it's probably, he didn't drink himself to vomiting. It's probably just, like, being on the ocean for a long time makes your tummy hurt.
Well, and also, like, maybe when you get into land, don't just drink. Like, that shouldn't be the first thing you do.
What else is there to do in life?
I don't know, but there's some really beautiful scenery in this scene. So, I mean, he could, like, look at the ocean and be like, wow, what a beautiful existence I have.
Could look at the flowers.
Yeah, there's so many flowers.
All right, so next we are in Marine, which starts off showing the, like, harpy, maybe? I'm not quite actually sure what the angel statue above Marine is supposed to be, but it shows them taking that down, which is obvious symbolism. It's a pretty scene, though, when all, like, the soldiers are lined up.
Yeah, they spent a lot of time on that scene. I think that scene was actually in the previews, but it was really, like, there's a lot of CGI involved, and they spent a lot of time on it, and all I was thinking is, like, every time there's a CGI scene that's not dragons, that's some money that didn't go towards dragons.
And also, I mean, I know it's symbolism, but there's so many other ways you could just show her, like, she's the new female leader of the city, not this statue, not this false idol. Like, there's other ways to do that. And it was already pretty obvious. I mean, I guess it's supposed to set the stage for the whole season, but I was just kind of like, man, I'd rather see dragons. I think neither of us really appreciate stuff like that. I'd much rather a scene with good dialogue any day rather than an action scene.
Yeah.
So then we see an Unsullied, which we have to confess, both Mia and I were a little wine drunk. And so because we hadn't seen anyone in a year, we were both kind of like uncomfortable and thinking that was Grey Worm. We're like, it kind of looks like him.
Well, he's an Unsullied. We've never seen another Unsullied by themselves. And I was like, why is Grey Worm in a brothel? And I was just like, man, Miss Andy's going to be real upset. And then someone slits his throat. And I was like, you can't kill Grey Worm. It wasn't Grey Worm.
And then we learned we're both kind of a little racist when we're drunk.
I think the context clues are really important in this case, but I'm pretty sure we weren't the only people that thought it was Grey Worm.
I feel like there's a lot of the white male characters. The same thing happens to me on the regular in the show, like Stannis.
Yeah, I'm always like, who is that? Almost every time it's probably Stannis or one of his crew. I'm just like, oh yeah, you're here.
Hello, white man. All right, so before we get to the slit throat, I actually loved this scene because you never get to see anyone exploring the emotional needs of, like, someone who's had all their emotions wiped from them. And I really liked putting that, like, sensitivity towards the Unsullied that they haven't gotten to have before, which makes me think they're going to do a lot more with the Unsullied this year. I hope. Because it would be nice for them not to just be, like, nameless, faceless soldiers that are these, like, power soldier robots that have no feelings or emotions, and that they're actually all, like, really damaged and messed up.
Why do you always laugh when you say stuff like that?
I don't know. But I think
that's a really interesting, because we haven't seen any of that yet. It was kind of cool having an emotional thing, but I really should have expected somebody to die. I was just like, oh God, already?
I know, there's like, I didn't expect it, even though they gave you like the biggest, clearest shot of an open neck, we should have known. But
she was singing, I was all soothed.
I was really hoping to see the Pillar and the Stones, and I know they were doing that to trick us because they're like, oh, you're going to get to see it. Look, she's taking off his pants. And I'm like, nah, aw. I don't know why.
Well, nobody knows like they're totally like castrated, right? So what do we even get to see?
We don't know. That's why I wanted to know.
I know. It's driving me nuts.
I need to know what they took. All right. So the group that took the life of the Unsullied was called the Sons of the Harpy, which I'm sure is something that we should read the books and understand that was a powerful reference. But it was just a cool mask. Like, that's all you got. Yeah. I'm assuming that I should just use, like, normal history to assume what a masked group would be like, because since all of Game of Thrones is done off of real history, and masked groups tend to be jerks.
Yeah, they're really mad about the recent developments in Marine. And, I kind of don't blame them. Like, even though I, as a person, am against slavery and all of that, I also wouldn't want some random white woman coming into my town and just kind of taking over and being like, I live in this pyramid now.
Yeah, I feel like it's, very, like, anonymous, literally. Also, okay, I don't know why this quote made me so mad when I heard it, but it was the angry snakes lash out makes chopping off their heads easier. I'm just like, Daenerys, why do you always have something like that to say? Like, you're never actually doing anything productive. You're just, like, writing everything off with, like, a fable tale sentence. That's not actually producing anything in this society, and that's why people are killing your people. Woman. She's
having a rough time. Like, I'm kind of excited because it seems like this season we are going to see more of her and more of her actually having to make decisions as a leader, which she hasn't really faced as much, and there might be consequences for her actions, which would be great. Like, we've got a little bit of that in season 4, but I will agree that, like, she always seems to have something high and mighty to say, but she has no follow through, and all I really want is to see her actually do something
at all, just anything.
Yeah, but I think part of it is that, like, the way that she's written in the books, she's like, she ran out of chapters faster, so I think they've been trying to stretch it out.
Yeah, and also, like, I know that she's 14, so writing a 14-year-old up to, like, a 20-year-old is a little rough. So I'm not actually sure how old they made her, but it's somewhere around early 20s.
No, it's younger than that. Well, when we started, she was 16.
Yeah, so she should be, like, that old now, right?
Like,
no,
19 or 20, yeah.
So I understand, like, a teenager would be terrible at this stuff, but a teenager also wouldn't have all of these, like, I guess she's high class. I don't know. It just annoys me every time because it feels like she's doing nothing. And then lastly, we see Ms. Sandy coming up to Grey Worm and basically being like, hey, do you have a penis? Because why would an Unsullied go to a brothel? At least that's how I felt like she was being.
I don't think that's how it was at all. I think she was genuinely like, I heard he died in a brothel, but I don't understand why you'd even go to a brothel. And can you solve this mystery? Is this a common thing that happens? Was this a one-off thing? Like, I think it was more for context of, is this a common thing? Is this something that he does? She's all worried that, she got a little crush on him. She wants to make sure she's the only woman in his life except Dany.
See, I was thinking, more if she was like, hey, if he has to go to a brothel, do you have any needs that I can, supply that a brothel would?
I didn't get that at all.
Oh, I totally did, but maybe that's just because I'm really bad at flirting in real life.
You ask all the guys that you like, hey, you go to strip clubs?
I can do that.
I hope it's not like that, but I guess we'll see more future developments. But it was really vague, and, he also was just like, no. I don't know, bye. And he just walks away.
Nope.
Okay, so next we go to the Wall.
So it starts off with Jon Snow sparring with his wife murderer.
I did not know that until I read your notes. Because all the people on the Wall look the same to me. I
didn't know it the first time I watched it, but when I watched it not wine drunk, I knew. All right, and so then it cuts over to Samwell? That's his name, right? Okay, I didn't make sure. Being like, I don't have to train. I killed a Thin and a White Walker. Look at me. I'm so awesome. And then Gilly was like, hey, maybe not so much. These guys are mean to me, and you're now my baby daddy.
And he was like, I'll go, if they kick you out, I'll go with you. And she's like, you can't do that because you're kind of sworn to the Night's Watch. They'll just kill you.
You'll be executed. And I love that because it's such a relationship between a young man and a young woman. Being the man being like, I'm great at everything. And the girl being like, yeah, but hold on. Think this through.
And he, like, it kind of seems like he's, I mean, I don't even think he's that confident in himself. I just think he had a couple victories and he feels really, like, happy that he has her. So he's like, oh, we can do anything, baby. And she's like, actually, no, though.
It sounds right. You need both. You need both.
Yeah.
So then Melisandre shows up, and both of us completely forgot that she was even at the wall.
Yeah, I forgot Stannis. And, like, okay, this is so funny because when we watched the finale, we were both like, who is this army up in the north? And we were like, it's got to be the Boltons. They're the only people up in the north. And then Stannis shows up, and we're like, we haven't seen you in, like, half a season. Like, where you been, bro? Well, he was going to the north. So she shows up. And also I was confused because isn't her hair usually red?
Yeah, apparently, I guess the lighting was just off in this episode, or like wherever they were, because I know that Joanna Robinson made a post about that she has seen the screeners, and in the future, her hair is red again. Okay, so it's not like a dyed thing.
Huh. Because I was definitely like, well, you know, I tell people apart by like their hair and their clothes, so I was like, red woman, not in any red. The only reason I recognize her is because she wears the same necklace.
Yeah. And
also she's like the only chick up there, so context clues. But I was definitely like, oh, yeah, you're here.
And then, okay, so we've had this discussion before, but so Melisandre and Jon Snow are going up in the elevator, and Jon Snow's like, hey, you ain't cold? And she's like, yeah, the fire god keeps me warm, feel me. But, okay, so the fire god has to be real, or at least there's something about the fire god, because that's not the only situation in which the fire god has done definitive proof of something real, because you had, I think in last season with Beric Dondarrion, which is the least memorable scene that has ever happened in Game of Thrones. But basically the fire god made Beric Dondarrion alive again. Like, he resurrected him for a fact that the fire god did. So, like, there's all this definitive proof that they are the correct god, even though they're the most, like, insane of, like, because obviously the seven is just Christianity or Catholicism, so it's just like, eh. But fire god, like, keeps her warm. Like, she's legitimately not wearing anything in this, like, tundra.
Yeah, she also has, like, legit real fire powers and, like, has helped Stannis in battle a few times and stuff like that. So I'm just, like, it's kind of confusing because all the other religions so far are just kind of arbitrary and, like, there's no definitive proof. But then with the fire god, there is proof. So, like, wouldn't you be on the fire god's side?
Or, like, it's either that or, like, all the gods are real, and in which case, why do they keep fighting each other? I don't, it's weird to me.
It is really weird.
There's definitive proof, not like, because in our world, there isn't definitive proof of any of them, but if she doesn't get cold, that's good. I mean, I get cold if it's like 70 degrees outside.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing because it's like, why would you still believe in the old gods if you encounter this proof multiple times that the fire god, and also why isn't Stannis king yet if the fire god's real?
That's true, but I also know like that I'm under the impression that there's something real about the Godswind, but that hasn't been done like in the show, but it kind of has, like, really, really, really early on. So,
no,
like,
but like Bran and the talking tree.
Yeah, so I think that they're both real. I don't know. I don't get the religion of Game of Thrones, and I wish they would talk about it more because I feel like it's more important than they.
It is a really big part of, I noticed in the books it's like a much bigger part than in the series, and I think part of that is just because they don't want to take the time to explain what the religions are. They just kind of, like, people say things from each of the religions, but you don't realize it's part of it, or you don't know how they're related. Yeah. But I do think it's bigger than, I don't know. I'm hoping because it's such a big element in the books that they bring it more into the shows.
So after this, Melisandre takes him to talk to Stannis, and they have, like, boring conversations between two of the most boring characters. Jon and Stannis talk, like, politics, and they're just like, oh, do you miss your family? Do you know who took your family? Do you want to fight for your family? And the answer Jon always gives is, yes, of course I do, but I'm sworn brother of the Night's Watch. And then he's like, go talk to Mance, because we need the wildlings, and if you don't talk to Mance, we're killing Mance. Like that.
Yeah, and also, like, so Stannis in the books, like, I haven't read all the books, just for, like, FYI, but Stannis in the books is, like, the least appealing Baratheon brother. So the other two are way more charismatic or way stronger. Like, Renly would be a better king according to almost everybody in the books. And the fact that Stannis is still alive and he's the one with the best claim to the throne, if you are going, like, from the Baratheon line, it makes people mad because Stannis is so boring. So now that I know that he's kind of supposed to be boring, I feel better about finding his scenes boring.
Yeah, he's just supposed to be cruel and good at war, is what he's supposed to be. Is like
Well, he's talented in other ways, but he's not a people person.
He's not talented in being interesting.
Yeah, pretty much. But even I can recognize that his claim is pretty valid.
And so next we get to see Sansa finally and Littlefinger, but mostly Sansa, even though Baelish is one of my favorites.
I love both of them together all the time.
I know. It makes me upset how much I like it.
I adore it, and people think it's gross, and for some reason that just fuels the fire.
I know. I think it's like that. Like, I was once a 17-year-old girl, and this powerful man. It's like, hey, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe I relate too hard. I don't know, but it's good stuff. I mean, at the very least, I'm grateful because Littlefinger, Lord Baelish, whatever, he's saved her from Cersei. I think he's the only person who'd have the power to.
So we see Robb and Aaron fighting, sparring with some other young boys. And we learn that basically Littlefinger is just dropping him off in some like boys camp forever.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I still have you because I murdered your mom, but I can't keep you because I have to go bring Sansa to protection. So like, bye. If he didn't show up again ever in the series, I wouldn't even be surprised. But I bet he will.
He's like, you're just gross and useless. Get away from me, child.
He's also not even good at fighting. Like, I mean, and who's surprised? Because this is the guy that was like sucking on his mom's boob like 2 seasons ago when he was 10. So, of course, he's never held a sword before.
Yeah. Maybe he'll come back like awesome or terrible.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried about that. I just hope he never comes back because I don't like him.
So then during this scene, Baelish receives a note, reads it, and looks at Sansa while she notices being like, oh, you're keeping secrets from me. And it's this, like, weird power play that is kind of always weird as a teen girl who has ever in her, like, relationship with an older man. You know that weird power play, but it's also, it was weird, but also good.
It's also, like, Sansa doesn't have a choice, so it's kind of tough because she's like, I'm basically just trusting that you're not going to kill me because you probably would have already killed me, and I'm pretty sure you started a war to get with my mom, which is weird.
I don't necessarily know that she thinks that. I think that she notices and that she's using that for the future. Like, I definitely think that note's going to be a thing in the future in regards to, like, I know that they're doing this power play between both of them because Sansa really has the power in their relationship because she's the one that has the family name. And she's the one that has the heirship. So he needs her as much as she needs him.
Yeah, but I don't even think he cares about that as much as he cares that she looks like her mom.
Yeah, we can ignore that. So then you get to see Brienne sharpening her knife, and Paco shows up. And then
you mean Podrick?
Paco. He looks like a Paco. He's so cute. And like,
he is very cute. And Paco's over here, and he's like, hey, Brienne, what are we going to do next? And she's like, why are you even here?
Get away. We're getting a divorce, Paco.
And he's like, but I'm here to help you. And she's like, I just wanted to fight for Renly, and I'm somehow still in the story.
She's like, everyone left as garbage people. Let me go. I just want to die. She doesn't say that, but she's just like, I'm done with life. I'm done with Westeros. Everyone is evil and cruel. And you're in my way.
It seems to be a recurring theme that there are characters that are just like, I'm done with this place.
And then so Podrick is like, but Sansa. And she's like, I found Arya. Arya's like, meh. So Sansa, meh. And
then literally at this exact moment, you see like a little like train of people, and there's like a carriage and some bodyguards or whatever, and you're like, man, someone's traveling not on the King's Road. What's up with that? And then they zoom in, and it's freaking Sansa and Littlefinger literally passing right by them, and they don't know it. And I hate this because I literally, like, we were watching it together, and I was looking at you, and I was like, why? They're right there. It's the same thing as whenever Arya was, like, right by the Red Wedding, and when she was right by the Eyrie when her sister was there. Like, oh, my God, drives me nuts.
Yeah, the only one that really has bothered me the most is the Eyrie with Arya and Sansa, just because I want it so bad. It'll never happen.
I mean, like, as much as they hated each other, I just want them to know that they still have family out there, and...
Well, I don't think they hated. They were just young girls that were like 2 years apart and sisters. Yeah, I think they're old enough now. I was like, I think they're old enough now that they'd be like, "Oh my God, I'm so happy to see you."
Thank God. Let me tell you about this crazy shit I witnessed.
So all Sansa and Littlefinger talk about in this scene is, "We trust no one. Everyone is not trustworthy. We're going west." Like, that's all that happens.
Good thing we know anything about Westeros, so we know where they're going. I have no idea what's going to happen with them.
Well, they said they were going to the Fingers, but they're not, which is east. So if they're going west, I could just probably look at a map and figure it out, but that seems like work.
Yeah, so we'll have to be surprised by next episode.
It'll probably be episode 6 before we figure out where they're going, based off of how Game of Thrones has done in the past.
Tweet us and let us know.
No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Next, we're at Tywin's wake, and you just see the Tyrell kid talking at Cersei. While Cersei's like, I'm wine drunk, leave me alone.
Yeah, this is okay, so whenever they showed previously on Game of Thrones, they showed a scene from season 1. No, it's not that boy.
No, this is a Tyrell.
Fuck. Lancel, Tyrell.
No, I think it was the brother, but I'm not fully sure because the brother is engaged to her and doesn't like her, so why would he even be talking at her? But it looks like him. I wasn't fully sure, but it was definitely Tyrell based off of the clothing. I know that.
Yeah, I thought it was Loras.
Yeah, I think it's Loras. And then Cersei's just looking at Marjorie, being sexy towards Tommen and being like, you're taking away my pride and joy.
It goes back to the prophecy at the very beginning of the episode, which I thought was a nice callback.
Yeah, I like that they're gonna do Cersei right, I think, because I know from every book reader being like, I'm so excited for this season, Cersei's awesome. Not awesome, but her story is really appealing to watch and or read. So I'm very, very excited, and I just want it all to build up so much. I love her character. It's the same way of Walter White. I hate Walter White, but I don't even love his character, but the idea of lots of people loving his character but hating him. Yeah. That's how I feel about Cersei. All right, and then now we see Cousin Lancel, who was previously shown in the previous before, where they showed a scene. But basically, in the very first season, whenever Robert Baratheon went on his boar hunt, he had his little Lannister servant with him, feeding him wine. And so Cousin Lancel has returned for the first time, really since then, I think. He might have showed up a few more times past that episode. And he's joined a religious cult called the Spera that worships, I believe, the Seven. And so he's talking to Cersei, and they're having this conversation, and he's talking to Cersei about her sins. And so there were two things specifically said, was that he first mentions the unnatural relations, suggesting him, or her and his brother, or her brother, that would be the correct gender pronouns for this. And then he says, there was the king, his boar hunt, and his wine, which I didn't notice the first time I watched this. But he straight up knows that Cersei poisoned the wine to kill Robert Baratheon. And she's like, not really. That didn't happen. But if he knows, he was the one feeding the wine, so he knows.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
No, he was the squire. The wine boy was the other cousin that she had sex with. The blonde cousin.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am so sure. I'm going to Google it right now, but keep talking.
There's nothing else to say about this scene.
Who killed Robert Baratheon? Robert Baratheon. Oh, wow, that was wrong. I spelled it wrong. Okay, I think you're right, and I'm mad about that. Because she also slept with a blonde guy that was also like a squire.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that it was the same guy.
I thought it was.
No, it's that one's the squire. That's why he knows that he poisoned the king. That's why he mentions it.
Oh my god, he has long hair. That's
the
same guy.
Yes.
I thought they were two different people.
Good God, I have to sit with you with everything. Next time I'm going to make her watch an episode a second time so she actually knows what's happening.
I was planning on it. We just ran out of time. I'm sorry. I apologize for us having a podcast and me not having my shit together. Okay, they're the same person. Mystery solved.
Anyways, he mentioned straight up that basically Cersei murdered Baratheon, which has never been mentioned before, that everyone just assumed it was that, but he actually has known this whole time that she was the one responsible for his death. And so he's trying to be like, hey, you can come to religion and be a better person. And she's like, meh, no, I'm already going to hell. My father's already going to hell. Don't worry about it. It's the Lannister curse, essentially.
So the next scene has Loras Tyrell, who is the gay Tyrell guy who is engaged to Cersei, and he is in bed with another guy, and there are boy butts everywhere.
So many boy butts.
I appreciate that there were a lot
shadows.
of butts. Yeah, I appreciate that there were a lot of butts in this episode.
Yeah, I just like when they show other relationships.
Yeah, that too. I do appreciate the gay and how that's cool. And it was a super cute little scene. And then Marjorie's like, can you stop fucking around? Because people are waiting for you. And you're technically engaged to Cersei, so maybe don't do this.
She was like, your betrothed is waiting because he was supposed to be down there eating dinner with Cersei, and she's supposed to be with Tommen, and so she's like, hey, I'm trying to do the politician thing, and you're running it for me. And I just love that she's like, she picked up food, she's eating it all cute, and he's like, what's your name? Oliver? Oliver, well, you're keeping my brother from his betrothed.
She was amazing in this scene. It was very Marjorie. She was just like, look, you can fool around, but I got business to do. And
so then it gets to a good part where Loras is essentially like, you should be thankful for me because I'm taking Cersei away from the King's Landing, so you should at least like me for that. And she's like, well, it's not necessarily true. And she's like, well, if I don't get married to Cersei, then she's stuck here. And she goes, perhaps. And that's just the coolest thing. Perhaps. So that means she already has plans of getting rid of Cersei if that doesn't fall through.
Oh my God. And absolutely. Of course she does. I'm so ready.
I know, right? So then we get back to seeing Tyrion and Varys. And this is such a good scene. It's everything I love about Game of Thrones. It's just like small sentences saying a whole entire like plethora of words, just saying very little to mean a lot. And so the scene is essentially Varys talking to Tyrion and talking him into helping him have Daenerys become queen by talking to him that he's a good politician, that he is very talented, that he is very charismatic, that he is good at what he does, and that he's way better than anyone's ever given him credit for. And Tyrion's just being a sad sack of crap this entire time. And again, we hear the word perhaps being used whenever Tyrion is just being very melodramatic about how the kingdom is ruined and that the rich will always take advantage of the poor. And Varys is like, perhaps, but perhaps we've grown so used to horror that we forgot things can be good. And then it also goes to Varys making the very feminist comment, who said anything about him, which makes me mad that was in the previews because that's such a good line that it ruined it for me. Because if I got to see it like naturally in that episode, I'd have had like chills down my spine. It'd have been so good, so beautiful and well delivered. And like Conleth Hill did such a good job. I just love
Well, I got chills in the preview, and even seeing it normally, like, I agree with you. I wish I hadn't seen it before, but it was powerful either way.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be a scene that once Game of Thrones is over, it's going to be one of the major scenes of the entire series that isn't a death or anything like that.
It was a really good one. I also like that we're seeing Varys be officially Team Daenerys, because he's never actually come out and said it. He's always been like, oh, I'm doing this for the good of the realm. But now he's like, actually, I'm Team Dany, and you should be too.
Yeah, and I mean, we should have expected that Varys was trying to get Daenerys this entire time. Like, I'm pretty sure whenever I rewatch it and rewatch everything Varys has done, he was trying to train her to be the queen, and et cetera, et cetera. I feel like he's always trusted her because, I mean, he's been involved in her story since the beginning.
Yeah, he's actually, I was thinking about it, and whenever Robert Baratheon was like, kill the Targaryen bitch, he was like, she's 14. What threat could she possibly pose? Like, it's fine. Like,
she's a wee babe.
Yeah, he's like, don't kill her. She's just a girl. Yeah, she couldn't possibly take over. But yeah, he's been, I like that he's been operating subtly, but now we get to see him actually like doing some real stuff and getting people involved, and yeah, it's going to be good.
Even though I tend not to like characters that have an allegiance, and now he has an allegiance, and I'm like, oh no, one of my favorites has an allegiance. I still, it's so good though. He did so well because he did it so subtly for so long. I just love it.
Absolutely. Like, it's something that's been building since the very beginning, so I'm very excited about it.
So next, we go straight to Meereen, which makes sense because Varys had just asked Tyrion to come with him to Meereen, so they're suggesting that's actually what's going to happen. And so what happens is one of the residents of Meereen is asking Daenerys to reopen up the pits, the fighting pits where peasants and such would fight to the death for money.
Well, it used to be slaves.
Right. But
and he says now it would be free people doing it for money on their own.
And Daenerys, who is awful at politics and only good at, like, the big statements, is like, I would never do that. No one should fight to the death. That's cruel and unusual, blah, 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 blah. And I was just, at that moment, I realized why I didn't like Daenerys anymore, and it was because she was awful at politics. And the reason I really love Game of Thrones is I love, like, the subtle politics. And when I was thinking that, at that exact moment in the episode, she says, I'm not a politician, I'm a queen. And I was like, well, if you're honest about it, I kind of like you more. Like, she knows that she's not good at this, and I can respect that.
Yeah, it is tough because I think she has these ideas about things, and she really, really wants to be right about everything when she's not actually educated, especially in a lot of the culture of the places that she goes to. Like, I think this is, I mean, I don't know. Is it cool to have people fighting in pits? I don't know. I don't think so. I would rather there be no pits like Danny. But if that's part of their culture and they want to keep it up regardless and it's not a slavery thing, then I think that should still kind of fit in her personal moral system. I just think she's not really allowing other people to tell their own experiences to her, and she's not adapting those experiences to her rule. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, obviously this is where Tyrion comes in, like a straight up showing you where the politician fits into her life, like where she needs one that's like knows the way that King's Landing works, knows the way that actual, like, how to be a queen, how to be a king, how to have a council. I was like, oh, I see, you're 100% setting up, which I'm really excited for, because those two characters together will be great. Yes.
And not to mention that, like, Dany tends to listen to whichever man she is talking to last. And granted, she doesn't have a lot of, like, female advisors, but between her old man advisor, who's not Jorah, I don't know his name, and
Barristan, I believe.
Barristan? Yeah, Sir Barristan. That sounds right.
It's close to that.
And Dario, who she's sleeping with also, like, she basically is like, I think this. And they're like, well, consider this. And then she goes, yeah, that's right.
Or she goes, no, and then walks off. Like, those are her only two things. She's just like, exactly what you said or no.
Yeah, so I think it'll be nice for her to learn how to think a little more strategically, because I think she's so worried about appearing weak that she's not listening to her people.
Like, Dany is impressively, like, white feminist. Like, just her entire persona is so, like, what current white feminism is. Like, I'll think about this in 2 years and come back to you.
Yeah, like, even the scene, oh my
when
God.
I've thought about it on my own.
Right. I have to come up with the opinion on myself.
Yeah.
Like the scene, it was a couple of seasons ago where she's literally like riding on top of a wave of brown people that she just freed. I was like, ugh, so gross, so white supremacist. It was terrible.
This hurts.
It's like there's already not enough people of color in Game of Thrones, and then the only ones that they have is like literally like a magic, like a magic carpet for Dany to ride on. I was just like, oh, this is terrible.
Yes. So then it shows her in bed with, well, suggesting that she was just in bed with Dario Naharis.
It's not even suggesting. There were butts, and she wasn't wearing clothes, which doesn't happen.
Yes, it does. But I mean...
but, like, not in a sexy way.
I
like,
do like it was male butt instead of girl butt for once. They're getting better at it.
There was a lot of man butt in this episode.
It's good. So good.
Good stuff. Yeah, there were almost as many man butts as there were boobs this episode, which I think is, they're hearing us on the equality front.
Yeah, and I feel like butts is a fair trade. Because I don't really want to see balls.
Well, and I also get that's like a different, like, censorship level than boobs.
Yeah.
But they do show full frontal female nudity, so I don't know.
Yeah. So this, I actually, like, in the immediate, and you might have changed your mind since then, but you're like, man, Dario's being a jerk. And I thought the exact opposite. So do you still feel like Dario is being kind of a jerk?
I think the way that he says things is very dickish. Like,
yeah.
I appreciate his opinion. Basically, he was like, I think you should reopen the fighting pits. I think you're wrong about this. But he was really, like, rude about it. Like, I don't think he respects her as a ruler because he's sleeping with her now, and I dislike that.
I can see where you're coming from. I think he doesn't necessarily... I think he respects her... but not as a ruler. Yeah. Like, I think he has respect for her, though. And I think that he wants her to be better, and I think that he wants to be able to respect her as a ruler. Like, I think he's trying to build that up for her, but I think he thinks that she's doing a shitty job right now.
Yeah, and I just think that's crappy. Like,
but it's true. Because
but, like, I don't know. I'm just conflicted about it because I think he could groom her in a way that felt more authentic and less rude, and I just don't like – I think it's a personality thing. I don't like the way he's going about it.
But I also, like, get it because this is his life. Like, that's his life story that she's completely shutting off. Like, if what she says, like, her opinion is essentially saying your life and how you became to me is wrong. Like, it's unethical and all that stuff. And he's like, this shit's going to exist no matter what. Like, that kind of thing needs to happen, and it's going to happen no matter what. So you might as well let it happen to show that you respect them and their culture.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that she has somebody that she can listen to about this because she wasn't listening earlier when it was just like a random person. But I don't know. I don't like new Dario. I miss old Dario.
And also, but I like the new one because he's brown and he's the first person that's like from this culture that's talking to her. Because before when she had like Jorah and stuff, it's like, oh, Jorah's another person from Westeros and another person who understands that kind of politics and not the politics of Braavos, which is different. And so I think that Dario, even though he is kind of like an arrogant prick, he's still at least a very helpful cohort for her to have.
Yeah.
But he is an arrogant prick, and I will agree with you there.
Yeah.
And then I wrote this. I was like, Dani is 100% black and white, and Dario's like, stop being an idyllic princess, which I feel like is the best way to describe her as an idyllic princess, and soon she'll be like a powerful queen. And I feel like that's what we're wanting.
I almost feel like Dani's regressed in the past few seasons, because when she was with the Dothraki, she was rocking it. But I think they really have a clear culture, and she realized she had to fit in. But she hasn't been doing that since then. She's been kind of just like, oh, I've already earned this throne, so I'm going to take it.
Yeah, and I think also because she thought that she had such a good understanding of, like, Khale's culture, or Drogo's culture, and that stuff, that she didn't feel like, she's like, all brown culture is the same. Like, it kind of feels that way, that she's being that way, doesn't it, though?
Yeah, now that you say it, God, that's gross.
You're totally right, because I didn't even think about that partially the reason she was so good with Khal Drogo and stuff is because she was trying to adapt to the culture and really trying to learn how to take care of the people for who they were and how they functioned and really adapt it to them. And now she's more like, oh, I've learned how to do that. I'm already past that. That's not a skill I have to have anymore.
Yeah, like she keeps saying, you know, oh, I'm the queen, I'm the queen. Well, she used to say, I'm not a queen, I'm not a princess, I'm a Khaleesi.
Yeah.
So it's changed for sure.
Yeah, we learned some new about Daenerys today.
Because do you remember the scene? It was when she was like gonna purchase from the slave driver or something. She was hanging out with one of her handmaidens, and she was like, "I speak a million languages," and then she got stuff wrong in one of them. And like, I'm really over cocky Dani, and I really wish we had a little bit more season 1, season 2 Dani, where she's like, I just want to fit in and be able to be the best ruler I can be.
I'm really hoping that's what we're getting this season. I feel kind of ignorant because I'm sure there's people listening to this who have read the books and I'm like, I know. I'm just like, oh, this is what happens. Like, I just
I like not knowing yet. Like, I've read the books for where we're at now, but I haven't read anything past, and I like it being a mystery.
And then next, you can go here. You can tell this part.
Okay, so she decides to go down to the dungeon where she has chained up her dragons at the end of the last season.
Dario makes fun of her, essentially.
Yeah, Dario is basically like, you're the mother of dragons, but you don't have any dragons. And you can't control them, which is true when we saw that last season. So she goes down to the dungeon. It's all dark, and she's like, dragons, come out. And it's very obvious that the camera is panning towards a dragon and that it's going to be kind of scary and like sudden. And even though it was super obvious, I still jumped hard enough to spill wine all over my person, my blanket, and my cat that was sitting in my lap. And I made them pause the episode so I could change clothes. And my boyfriend was like, oh, didn't you pee before the episode started? And I was like, I did. I just spilled wine everywhere.
And then he was like, why does she drink?
I wasn't even like drunk or anything. I just get really easily spooked. And I knew it was happening, which is the worst part.
So then the dragons are like, Mom, I'm mad at you. And they start yelling at her with fire. Yeah,
they totally fire breathed all over her. And I guess it didn't, I mean, like they didn't, if they wanted to kill her, they could have.
Yeah, they definitely didn't want to. But they definitely wanted to scare her. Or maybe she just isn't a mother of dragons anymore and has to, like, I think she's so regressed she has to, like, completely retrain herself, including being the mother of these dragons.
Yeah.
Because she was definitely scared of them.
Yeah, she was like, uh-oh, a little bit of fire, bye. And she used to be like, fire cannot kill a dragon.
Just sitting in this boiling hot bath being like, I am perfect, everything is great.
I actually do that, like, if I'm taking a bath, I'm just like, fire cannot kill a dragon. Oh, I have the dragon's blood. And I'm, like, laying in my bath all hot, like, yeah, this is fine.
And then after you get out, you're like, my skin hurts.
Yeah, actually, that was terrible, and I think I got 3rd-degree burns.
We're so smart. I've done it, too. It's okay.
Okay, so the very last scene in this first episode, we go back to the wall, which is not my favorite place. But basically, Mance Rayder is like, I'm not going to bend the knee to Stannis because I'm a free folk and we don't bend the knee ever. And we learned that last season. And Jon Snow's like, but then he'll kill you. And Mance is like, that sucks. I'm not happy about it, but oh well.
Yeah, and I surprisingly liked this scene for being between. I like Mance Rayder, but I don't care for Jon Snow and I don't care for Stannis. And I liked it, even though I want to watch it again because I don't fully understand Mance Rayder's point, and I want to because I feel like he's saying something much deeper than I'm getting. Because I definitely understand that he doesn't bend the knee to kings, but I know he doesn't care about that. And I ultimately, because of the way I like Mance Rayder, I know he doesn't care about that. I know what he's doing is he's not selling his men to the kingdom, and I know that's his ultimate goal, and that he refuses to be the one to give them up because he's worked so hard to get them together. But I don't fully get his point, and I really wish I did, because I really think that scene would have been more beautiful had it been maybe written more obviously of what his point was. But I know that's also, you're supposed to kind of be like, what's Mance doing? He's not supposed to basically be killing himself.
Well, I think that is the point, though. Like, I think he just is like, I spent all this time bringing the group together, and the last thing I want to do is for, like, to give them up for a stupid reason like this. Like, I'd rather die than see that happen.
Yeah, and this all became, like, a circle jerk of masculine respect. Like, Mance Rayder even says, like, Stannis would be a better king than anyone else. Like, I believe in Stannis. Like, I hope Stannis the best. Like, I don't have any ill will towards him. I understand what he's doing. And, like, all three of them were, like, this is the most masculine I could ever like a scene, because I'm kind of a known sexist towards men in TV shows. Like, that's very specific, but, like, I hate a lot of the way men are written in TV shows, but I actually very specifically liked this one a lot, because there was just, like, this respect circle jerk that I thought was really cool and really well done between the three of them as all leaders. I just really liked it.
Well, they all have very different goals, and, like, you know, he's not like, oh, I don't want Stannis to be king, I should be the king. He's like, wildlings aren't even involved in this. Like, there's no reason that we should get tangled up in it. And the last thing I'm going to do is, like, save myself by giving you my people and, like, basically using them as an army and killing my people.
Yeah, and also, like, none of them had ill will towards each other. Like, all of them were just like, we want to do this as right as possible, but we understand, like, the consequences of all the political decisions we're making within each of these small words. Like, it's the first scene in The Wall I've ever liked, I think.
Yeah, actually, there's been very few in The Wall that I've found interesting, because it's so just masculine, and the way, like, the masculine parts of Game of Thrones are my least favorite, because it's all about, like, pride and not wanting to lose honor, and that's so boring to me.
Me too.
Compared to the women.
I have no need for honor or pride. Like, that's not what's important in Westeros. You have to stay alive. You have to protect family. You have to protect the younger people. You have to protect, like, the poor, and not like, I need this position of power. Like, even though that's what Game of Thrones literally means.
But it's like, that's a big reason why you hate Ned, is, like, his whole plot was like, oh, I'm going to do the honorable thing and blah, blah, blah. And he doesn't even realize that, like, they're basically setting them up to be murdered.
Yeah, like, they're, like, so much of it's, like, honor for no reason. But I think that this is the first scene you really see where all of the men in it have a very clear-cut reason. And even if Stannis is to be king, he knows that. Like, with Ned Stark had really nothing that he was going for. Like, Stannis knows what he wants. He thinks he is the best ruler for the kingdoms. And there is an argument for that. And so I really liked it for that reason. Like, it was finally a scene between men that was enjoyable for being men.
Yeah. And I like that it wasn't Mance Rayder being like, oh, I'm not too afraid to die. Like, I'll die for my people. Like, he wasn't happy about it, but he was like, this is what I have to do.
I also like that he was like, it's okay to be a cowardice and it's okay to be scared. That's not the problem here. I loved it.
Yeah, Jon Snow was like, it's okay to, or like, he said something about fear, and he was like, oh no, I'll admit that I'm scared. Like, it has nothing to do with that.
And I loved that he didn't act like a tough person whenever Jon said he was going to die by fire. Like, he's like, oh, that's a terrible way to die, which it is the worst way to die. Like, it genuinely is, other than I think drowning is equally as bad. Like, both of them are really bad, but still. And then, so I didn't realize this until I watched it the second time, but the execution was immediately after this scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think I just separated them because they were so different, and I loved both of these scenes so much.
The execution was really good. So basically, like, it was really drawn out, and a lot of the deaths are kind of like this, like the really, like, poignant ones.
Yeah.
Poignant? Pungent?
Yeah, the pungent ones.
Yeah. But I really did like how they did the cinematography of this. Like, basically, Melisandre is like, this is what you get for not believing in the one true God and the one true king. There's
also the scene right before Melisandre wherever Stannis and Mance are talking to each other, and they just say, like, two sentences. But it's also still that, like, respect thing where it's like, I think this is fine. I think this is fine. I'm sorry I'm doing this. I'm sorry I'm doing this. Like, written under all of this, like, heavy wording and, like, politic talk. Like, it's, yeah,
Stannis is like, you sure you don't want to bend the knee? And he's like, I can't. And he's like, all right, nice knowing you.
And then Melisandre one of her things.
Yeah, but it actually wasn't as obnoxious as hers usually are. And it didn't sound as culty as usual. She didn't say anything about the night being dark or full of terrors.
I know, and it was literally a night that was dark and full of terrors for once.
I know. I mean, we're at the Wall, guys. So that was nice. And then she also used, I noticed this, she didn't use her fire magic powers. She used an actual torch to light his stuff on fire.
It's a good point. And then so for a long time, we just slowly watched the pyre burning and watching everyone there watching it. You have Stannis and the Onion Knight. You have Stannis' wife and the child. You have the, Tormund, the main wildling, the redhead wildling.
Yeah.
I don't know why the name Tormund. I don't think that's right. I think that's his real name or something. Anyways, and then you have the Men in the Night's Watch. You have Gilly and Samwell, and all of them just watching it, but like all kind of indifferent, but all also facing like a lot of emotions. But it's again still that masculine respect of just like, we're going to watch this happen because we respect him and we're going to watch him die. This is going to happen. And so,
what I also thought was really interesting is that Mance Rayder, like, the last thing he wants to do is have his men remember him screaming and in agony. So he is like trying so hard to not make any noise, which I think I would try to do that if I was being burned alive, and I would not last long. And then I would be like, Balenciaga.
And so he's just sitting there kind of like, you can see in his face like he's in so much pain and he wants to scream, and he starts like mouthing screams but not actually doing them. And at this point, when I watched this episode with my mom was like, Jon Snow should kill him. And then as she says it, right as that, Jon Snow walks away fed up. And I was like, how did she predict this?
Your mom is a mind reader. Because I was just like, man, Jon Snow's not even going to watch him die. Is he that mad about it? And then, bam, through the heart with an arrow. He's like, I'm just going to put you out of your misery now.
And it was so beautiful. It
was great. It was great. Because, like, obviously Jon Snow doesn't want Mance Rayder to die, but he already knows it's going to happen. So he's trying to be respectful to both Mance and Stannis, and you can tell he's kind of torn in a couple different directions.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's my favorite death in Game of Thrones, and I say that with some caveats that I don't have any memory, so there could have been a death I liked before, but, like, I did...
Are you also saying that the Hound didn't die, so he doesn't count?
Yeah, it's not a death. You didn't see him die on screen. Even whether or not he's dead doesn't matter. It's still not a death.
Okay.
So, but like that was just such a beautiful death. Him watching Jon Snow do it, and then personally, see, I'm very like obviously this is supposed to have repercussions, but I think it's the smartest thing Jon Snow could have done because ultimately he's winning the loyalty of the wildlings because he showed the respect that he was going to no longer do the thing that a man in the Night's Watch should do, but he's doing a thing that someone who spent time with the wildlings and has respect for the wildlings and the leader has done. And so I think that that's probably a really good mood for politics-wise. I'm really excited because I think Jon Snow's I hope he leaves the Wall this season because God is the Wall boring, but I think he's going to have like a bigger leadership role, and I think he's going to start recruiting people and like I think he's going to, I don't know. I think he's one of the dragon riders, right? So, like, I think this is where it's really going to start ramping up. And also the thing is that, like, you kind of worry that, like, Stannis is going to be mad at him and Stannis is going to do anything. But then you think about it and you're like, no, because Stannis is very well aware that Jon Snow is way more powerful alive than he is dead or in jail or anything like that. Like, Jon Snow has a lot of power in Westeros, even if he is a bastard.
Oh, I like how, we didn't mention this, but Melisandre totally introduces Jon Snow as the bastard of Winterfell. And I'm just like, number one, rude. And number two, like, that's not even a relevant title anymore. Like,
she also asked if he's a virgin. And, like, that doesn't have a reasoning yet.
God, Melisandre, what is your problem? Learn how to socialize.
As much as, like, she is my least favorite female character, even though, like, she's, like, aesthetically the most pleasing to me, other than maybe Cersei. Like, I just, like, she's a Hot Topic goth, like 100%. Feels like every girl you knew when you were like 16, but like the one that had the most money to afford the clothes from Hot Topic, so she had all the nice stuff. Like that's the girl that Melisandre is. And she always says all these like high words that she read in a witch book once and like practicing her magic. Like, you know that girl. If you're listening to this and went to high school, you know that girl. And that is Melisandre to me.
Okay, so I also wanted to I have a couple questions for you. Did you have any disappointments with this first episode? How would you rank it?
I really liked it. My two disappointments are the fact that it felt like it was too jumping around. Like, I feel like they should have cut out maybe, like, Sansa and Brienne and had it more focused only on 3 stories because it felt a little bit... I mean, it felt like they were just reintroducing it to you, but then they also had, like, some really poignant scenes in it that I felt were kind of, like, taken away because there's so many different people that it just felt like an intro episode. Mm-hmm. And then, obviously, my other disappointment is that I'm just really stoked for Arya, and that hasn't happened yet.
Actually, literally, I wrote down 2 things, and one is that we didn't see Arya in this episode because I I was really thinking she would be opening episode material.
Yeah.
And also that we haven't seen Dorne yet. But I don't know how we get to Dorne. Like, so it could be like a plot thing, but I just am so pumped to get there.
Yeah, same here. I'm just ready. I don't want to wait. That's all it is. Like, I'm not disappointed by the episode at all. I just don't want to wait.
Yeah, and I thought the episode overall, though, was pretty solid. Like, it's not my favorite just because it did have a lot of, like, building plots, and I tend to like the episodes where everything comes together. But I thought it was a really solid starter up.
I felt like, at least for once, that the building, though, felt good. Like, it felt positive, and you could see where it was going on to, like, a lot of building episodes where you're like, oh, this is just drama
just
until we
filler.
get to something. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I had other questions for you.
All right.
Who is your favorite character this week? Who's the real MVP of this episode?
Varys, of course.
Really?
You know I love the spider, though.
No, I just thought it was going to be something different.
Who'd you think it was going to be?
I picked Cersei because I loved the flashback and I loved her morning scenes.
No, just something about the way, like, I think I love Conleth Hill, the guy who plays Varys. Like, I think, like, there's just something about him, the way he presents himself. It's so appealing to me in so many ways. He feels like your fat gay best friend.
No, I love it.
Like, there's a comedian named Guy Branum, and he's one of my favorites, and he just reminds me so much of Guy Branum. And I just kind of mean to say, but, like, get to Guy Branum, but they're both, like, bald, big, black guys, bald, big, gay guys. I was thinking of the guy from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, like Titus. That's where my brain went. But they're both bald, big, gay guys who know everyone and everything. Because, like, Guy Branum knows everyone in the gay scene. He knows every celebrity and stuff like that. I don't know. They just remind me of each other. I love him so much. Sorry. I'm done.
No, that's cool. I'm not, whatever. It's fine. And then my last question is, who had the best outfit this week?
Also Varys. But the first outfit he wears, even while watching it the first time, I noticed it and I loved it. I was like, if I was willing to cosplay with a bald cap, I would cosplay this in a second. And it was, I guess it's still his morning outfit from whenever they left Westeros. But it was, like, black, and it draped beautifully. Like, it's like they finally figured out how to drape those robes on him to feel more decadent and beautiful. I just loved it. It was so beautiful. And he had, like, little pointy boots on. They were so cute.
I had two, but I don't think one of them counts.
Were they naked?
One of them... No. Oh, my gosh. How funny would that be if I was like, I liked the boy butts.
It's my favorite outfit.
I liked Marjorie's morning dress that she wore briefly.
Yes.
But we've already seen it before, so that's why I don't think it counts.
Okay, I'll accept that.
Yeah, she wore it after Joffrey died. And then I also enjoyed Cersei's outfits this time around. I loved her morning dress. I think she looks like such a beautiful Queen Regent, and I just want to, like, it's weird. I used to hate her a lot, and I think I'm starting to, like, feel sympathy for her.
I've done poisoned you in the Cersei well.
How dare you? And can we also talk about the fact that Daenerys's white dress was really underwhelming?
Yeah, it was, I don't know.
I don't like her in white. I think she's got to be in shades of blue because, or like brown for Dothraki stuff. But, like, I just don't think white makes sense for her.
Well, especially because she lives in such a sandy climate. Like, it would get dirty so fast because, like, I live in a place that's really dirty. Like, because of wind, so when wind hits dirt, everything is no longer white. So there are no white cars where I live, so I was like, that dress would not stay that way, or else you were staying inside constantly. But there are giant windows in her castle, so it wouldn't work out. Like, I'm just thinking about this from, like, a logistical standpoint that someone was not thinking about. I don't care.
And I just think that thematically, like, it also doesn't fit because they've done such a good job of showing character development through the outfits and the costuming that I just think...
Unless
to me, what
they could be doing the color coding thing, like lots of, like, Breaking Bad and Star Wars are really well known for it. But white essentially either means good, but it also means innocent. So if they're actually making her digress, they're saying she's so good, but they're also saying she's innocent again. If they were potentially doing that, and that does seem like something that they would consider, but I don't know. If
yeah,
I
actually thought about that when I first saw the white. I was like, why are they trying to make her look innocent?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just didn't think it was a good fit. I think if they really want to show her regressing, they could have done some previous fashions or something.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense of, like, why the Lannisters are red, because red is the power color. So that's what I've always thought, like, oh, Lannister red, that makes sense. So it makes sense to have Daenerys in white. Yeah.
Nice try. I mean,
we'll see. We'll see if she gets, like, a red dress later on or a purple dress, and then that'll really explain it. Because purple's, like, royal and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all we have for episode 1 of season 5. Thank you for listening.
New episodes will come out every Wednesday following an episode of Game of Thrones.
You can subscribe on iTunes and leave us a review if you like us.
And you can send us any questions, comments, or concerns to bamfpod@gmail.com. That is BAMFpod.
And also follow the show on Twitter at BAMFpod, same spelling.
And you can follow your hosts on Twitter. I'm at Liz Loxley.
I'm at ExoMiaMoore.
And also, you can find more info about the podcast and your host at lilomimo.com/BAMF. And as well as our donate button, because as it turns out, it costs more money to make a podcast than we thought.
Thank you again for listening all the way to the end, and have a good week.
And all men must die.